Hello, my name's James Piecowye. Welcome to Podaholics and Tech Talk with Andrew Thomas from digitalnexa.com for the next 45 minutes to an hour. We're just going to talk about the stuff that's going on in this world today, right now, with respect to technology. Stuff you need to be thinking about, stuff you might not have thought about, and where you fit into the picture. That is Tech Talk, and this is Andrew Thomas. Good morning, Andrew.
It's a pretty special introduction.
Like that?
I like that.
You like that?
Yeah, very cool. I like it. How you doing? Hey, James.
I'm doing awesome, man. I remember years ago when I did an intro to one of our shows, and you called me out on it. You said, that's the most pathetic intro I ever heard in my life. So now
That's it. Yeah, I'm afraid you can't win. It's going to be that's disastrous, or that's too much, or no, I think that was good. A lot of energy, and it's just the problem is I now got to match that energy, right? That's the challenge. You've said it here, so I've got to quickly down my other coffee to get to the point where I can get to that point. So that's the game plan now, anyways. There's a lot of tech going on. Surprisingly, I think I think what's interesting is more and more every day people are getting exposed to new tech.
Yes.
So it was interesting. I saw an article, I think, on Tech Radar this week that was the low-tech video conferencing options for people that are struggling. And it was, push this button, click this button, and go.
Yeah.
Frankly, the reason that Zoom had so many security issues is because, regular folk were using Zoom. And obviously, they were taking pictures of the meeting, and their meeting ID was being exposed, and things that ordinarily people just don't do on video conferencing.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's interesting how they're having to update their experience to match consumer requirements as well. I don't know if you've noticed, they did an update. They've changed the layout. They've made it easier to invite. Because their platform, much like WebEx, much like GoToMeeting, and some of these other video conferencing platforms, are not point and click, kind of idiot proof. And they're trying to do that at the moment. I don't know if you noticed some of the updates.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I get an update almost every day, a little something, and you will be impressed with this because you know that I'm the $6 guy, and anything that's over $6, I'm not usually going to buy into. And in the last, about 2 weeks ago or so, when we started using Zoom to do our shows, I was on the free service, and we were getting hit by that 45-minute window. 40-minute. I couldn't deal with it, so I actually invested in the Pro. So, and I got to say, it gets you a longer time, and it gets you a few other things. But I think that there's also some optimization in the quality. I just find it doesn't lag sometimes as much. But I could be totally wrong. It could just be my house.
No, you could start writing a conspiracy piece about it.
And why wouldn't they, right? You've got the free service, you give everyone, it makes it really good. But those people who are spending the extra, few dollars a month, and honestly, for that extra time, and that alone makes it really worthwhile, I find, anyway. So I'm really happy.
I've kind of bounced around between the various platforms, and this does appear to be the best one for this kind of environment. To present, to put up a deck, to pull in other people. They put I think you issued it this morning, where you've got the approval, so you click and the approval coming in. Yeah. And obviously they do the cool, quirky virtual backgrounds as well. Yeah. So I think it's definitely the kind of most robust one from a price point perspective as well. So look, Google Hangouts is great. I was on a Google Hangout yesterday with I think about 15 people.
Okay.
So
how's the sound quality over there? That's always my big
fine.
thing.
It's okay. I think the challenge is that just presenting sometimes drops in and out. Right. So Microsoft Teams I think is good as well. They seem to be the champions at the moment. The Zooms, the Teams, and the Google Hangouts. Those are the ones that seem to be in my world anyway. as far as, kind of.
And Microsoft has the pedigree of Skype behind it. I mean, this is, they know this environment, and it's almost like the folks over at Microsoft, and I kind of, again, conspiracy, but it's kind of the Microsoft thing, a little bit arrogant in that, hey, we're here, we're big, we've been doing this forever, people will just naturally use us. And they didn't just naturally say, oh yeah, I'm going to just use my Skype account. They saw things like Zoom and other tools, and they said, I'm going there. And I'm sure the guys over at Microsoft were going, why aren't people using Skype? They've been using it forever. And I think once they've done a few tweaks to it to make it a little bit more accessible, even more easy to use than it already was. And I think that's really incredible, but neither you nor I are jumping over onto that platform, yet I use it. So it's kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Zoom for me is just, wonderfully integrated into HubSpot and also the Google Calendar world. So my HubSpot, my meeting links that I can create can be integrated into Zoom. So, I mean, if I want to now set up a meeting with anyone, I just go into Google Calendar, click it, and then it comes through. I can send someone a HubSpot link and it will go and connect. So I think it's about the connectivity and that kind of seamless connectivity that's helping. And again, I mean, this kind of brings us nicely, I guess, to the first point, but how these tech worlds are collaborating with each other to make your life easier. And I thought with Google in mind, thinking about that,
I think it's really my sense of this from what I'm doing at school and what I'm doing in my professional worlds right now. What we're doing is the technologies, as you said, that are easy to use, that are accessible, that are resilient and able to change and modify very quickly to the environment that we're in seem to be the ones that people are using. And I think we had a window of about 3 weeks where people were jumping all over the place. Oh, let's try this. Oh, let's try that. Oh, let's try this. Yeah. And I think we're over that now. And it's so fast, almost like this introductory phase happened so fast. And now people have settled on, okay, this is the technologies that I'm going to use for getting material out there, for sharing stuff, whether it be using a Google Doc. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Google suite of things, so I've used a lot of Google Docs, but I don't use Google Classrooms. And someone said to me, well, are you using Google Classroom? And I don't. Like, that whole suite of things is not the route I've gone down. And I thought that's kind of interesting, but people really now seem to be stuck into their areas. And it's again, as people introduce new things, you got to have a really compelling reason to make someone now want to adopt something else. And I kind of liken it to the old television remote control scenario. So you'll remember this. Remember when we only had about 7 channels? Well, we only had 3 channels at one point in our lives.
3, back home,
Then we got that little box with the push buttons, and so you got 12, and you could flick it up, and you could get 24. But who had 24 stations anyway? And then we got the wild world of cable, and then we got the wild world of satellite, and then we got where we are now. We've got 5,000 channels at our disposal, and we watch 4. That you've got to go to a 4 that you look at. And I think we're in that same kind of world with the basic things. If you really look at your desktop and say, okay, what are the programs I'm using? It's probably 4 or 5. 4 or 5 go-tos with you've got your word processing, you've got your presentation, you've got your connection to the outside world like we're doing now, video conference, etc. You've also then got your file sharing platform, whichever one that might be, whether it's a Dropbox, whether it's a Google, whether it's whatever you're using. And then you've got your host of socials. And in the socials, I was talking to someone 2 days ago, and I was talking to her about her socials, and I mentioned LinkedIn and Instagram where she is, and she says, yeah, but I really just use Twitter. I said, so, but
really?
Yeah. She said, I really am a Twitter person. I said the same thing. Really? Okay. She says, yeah, I mean, I'm on those other ones, and I do have, handles, and I do put stuff there, but really, if you want to get a hold of me, you use Twitter. And I kind of sat back and said, I guess that is how I got a hold of you.
Yeah. I find I've been trying to, I think apps are a key thing as well. So I really like the Zoom app.
Yeah.
Hangouts forces me to have it in a web browser.
Okay.
And I found yesterday I was on a conference and I had to go away and get another file, and I had about 20 tabs open and I couldn't find where the meeting was. So I looked yesterday to see if there was any kind of Google Hangout app, and I'm pretty sure there used to be, but there doesn't appear to be, which is frustrating. I find that, like frustrating, because I think when you've got an app like this, especially in the Mac environment, when you do the claw and you can kind of bounce around the different spaces, and Zoom nicely sits kind of off to the right on a different desktop, and you can kind of bounce back. And so I think that's I think the app side of things is helpful as well with that. Just to, I'm using Vidyard.
Vidyard
quite a lot, which is,
tell me about that one. I've never heard of that one.
So Vidyard is video email, so it just allows you to kind of communicate through video, which I'm doing a hell of a lot more. And that I wish had an app. Doesn't have an app, but it integrates into HubSpot, so you can, from your email, you can directly create a video. So basically it links through. But Vidyard is nice because it can also sit in your Chrome. I'm thinking of grooming my hair. That's why I'm thinking of Groom. Chrome browser, and you can directly record from there as well.
Ooh,
so the nice thing about that Vidyard, I put up a video this week on our blog about the HubSpot CRM, and there was a little kind of bubble of me in the bottom left-hand corner, and then I just took people through the screen share. So that's quite nice. I didn't put it in the notes, but I wanted to talk about it. So Vidyard is free as well.
Wow. Okay. So I'll have to check that out, because I'm always looking for things that can become kind of interesting. You want to know another one you want to go give a look at, and it's an app-based thing for your phone. And this is the Dolby, as in the Dolby sound. Dolby has put together a video and audio recording app that utilizes Dolby sound technology. Now, for the sound recordings, I find it works really well, and you can export it to things. In fact, if you go to my Insta, the James Cast, there's probably one right there now that I did this morning, and it gives you an idea. So it's beta, so they're still developing it, but they're letting people in to use it. I did something with video that I really liked, but I think it works best with the video if you export directly to a program, so Instagram or LinkedIn, because I tried to download the file then onto my computer. I could download it onto my phone, but I tried to download it onto my computer to do something with it, and it was a pain in the rear end. It comes in a different format. It comes in a multimedia format, and so I wanted to convert it. It wouldn't convert through QuickTime, although it should have, and so I just got frustrated with it, and I said, okay, this tool is not meant to load onto my computer and then load into Premiere and do some magic with. Use it on your device, get it to where you want to be, throw it into the socials. And what I liked about it is Dolby is playing with the sound, so it gives you a lot of opportunity. They do some noise reduction, they do some noise or sound enhancement, and they really give you that nice opportunity to fix up how you sound through that app. And it's really easy, and it works quick, and it's free. So it's a nice little tool. And what one of the things it's cool about it, Andrew, is if you're on Insta and you want to throw a nice little voicer in there. So you say, hey, you know what? We're going to be doing something over here at Digital Nexa this week. We got a great webinar. Here's how you can get involved. You can record your voice piece into the Dolby app. It'll then put an image with some sound waves on it so that you can load it right up to Instagram right away.
Oh, cool.
So you actually get that you get that audio video thing, and so I thought that is pretty impressive. And if you put it into stories, which is even better, then you can put overlays onto that sound wave. In fact, it's stories where I put my recording today. But if you do it into stories, you can then put your text over the sound wave, so you've got some nice communication, intercommunication going on. So
nice.
And it's free.
Yeah, I mean, I think. We almost ought to add it into tech talk every week of some new free things that we found, because I find myself finding new tools and playing around with them now a lot that I've never used before, because I'm increasing the video output, and I think I showed you before my O-ring finally turned up. Oh man,
that's beautiful looking, beautiful lighting.
So yeah. At least that's it. At least I'll be lit now. So yeah, I've just got to organise the backdrop and everything. But it's baby steps, you know.
So, you know, an easy way to do a backdrop, and this one I love, is you take clothes trees, and you put 2 clothes trees with a clothesline on it, and you just hang something down. And maybe, you know, if a print shop was open, you just get them to put a little banner on it, or you just hang a sheet or something that has a little bit of design on it. If you want, you just hang it down.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I do have a nice virtual background, but I don't think it'll work because it's not white.
Okay. Yeah. Oh no.
There we go. Yeah. So it's gone a bit weird.
Yeah.
But, we've actually
That's
got.
Nice. I like the idea.
We've got the designers of it. It just so happened that I'd had to move around today because of my power was misbehaving. But usually I'm on a white background, so that virtual background is quite nice. As far as, you know, kind of something cool. I was showing a few people yesterday, and they seem to like it. So yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, this kind of knocked everyone for 6 as far as the speed that you had to be at home. So yeah, we had decals and stuff organized. I think after your tips that are fantastic that you're putting out.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks for that LinkedIn. Shout out.
if you haven't seen them already, I strongly suggest you go and see James's tips about video and speaking to camera and conferencing. We did that kind of, you know, little MacGyver-esque.
But you need to put it backwards, and I didn't mention that you need to reverse things.
Yeah. Well, that's the other challenge. I think people were kind of doing that. And also, I mean, look, there was I watched in a week last week. There was a conference called Impact, and there's a guy on there who what he does is he teaches people kind of video work, right? So, you know, video for business, and it was quite interesting. Some of the tips that he came up with. One was just powering through. So if you had a piece to camera that you had to do, try not to keep stopping, just power through and then record it or re-record it. Yeah. Because I found out when I did the piece to camera, when I was going through the CRM and showing people, I must have re-recorded that about, I think it was 11 times in total. Yeah. You know, with because there was I've managed to remove that side of things. Nice. So that was one that was a bit of a bane, but I think you don't, when you're speaking live like this, you tend not to think about things. But when you're obviously doing a pre-recorded piece to camera, you think more about what you're saying. Then you're trying to analyze it. Then you think, well, I think your tip was the speed this week that you kind of deliver.
Slow down just a little bit. And it's finding a sweet spot, because it's for everyone has their own thing, and so it's not one size fits all. But it's the reality, like you said. You're your own best critic, so you listen to it, you watch it, and you go, I did, redo it. And I think
I was going to ask you, are you going to move to having a separate camera as well? Because that's the kind of next consideration. I was talking to a few people, and I said, well, James has got this kind of audio setup, you know, with the mic and everything. And I said, I'm not sure if he's actually set up his SLR and he's using that. And I know a lot of people that George Thomas, a great guy that I follow a lot, and Marcus Sheridan, they've got a kind of video set up as opposed to the camera. And I guess one of those things is they say that you tend to look at the person instead of look at the camera, whereas you look at the camera when you're doing it to camera. So are you thinking about that?
At this moment, no. I'm really working hard at keeping my eye on the green light, and with decent lighting and, you know, decent background, but really with decent lighting, as long as you have decent lighting, you can make the cameras on most of our devices work. Now, I'm really lucky. My MacBook Pro has a decent camera on it, and with decent lighting, it works well. The phones are good. They've got a great camera, but again, you need to have good lighting. So I would go to an external webcam if I didn't have that. But for what I'm doing, I don't really do tons of video. And when I do my tips on LinkedIn and that, I just find really good lighting and go with the phone and go with the playback features. So not at this time. But if I was doing more video stuff, I probably would, because I want to have the best quality possible. So I think it's really looking at your device and figuring out what's going to work for you. So, but that's a great idea. My challenge is always, the more things I start hooking in, the more things I've got to think about. And And it goes from being, okay, this was really easy to, oh, this is a lot more difficult. And I think our manufacturers of phones have got it. They understand it. The computers, and especially some of the Macintosh stuff, they haven't understood it, in that Apple put crappy cameras in things, and maybe they didn't think people would use them for video conferencing. I think some of our suppliers got caught out because the cameras need to be configured a little bit differently. There's no reason you couldn't have lighting built into your device. So all sorts of little things that they could have done that they haven't done because, well, it'd be the typical Steve Jobs things, right? Who's going to use that? It's like, so why would we do that? Well, okay. 2 months ago, 1 in 100 is going to use it. Today, everybody. So I think it's that kind of scenario.
Yeah, it was almost comical yesterday. I was speaking to a guy and was having some connectivity issues, and tried Zoom and tried Hangout, and I went, "Should I just call you?" He goes, "Yeah, just call me."
Let's be honest. When I do the PowerWorks with Glenn, the last 2 PowerWorks I've done, we've done over the phone. Because we've gone we've gone into Zoom, we've tried this, and we're back and forth. It's not connecting. He's on the road, and I just said, Glenn, I'm just going to call you, and I'm really lucky with the Roadcaster. So I use a Roadcaster Pro, and the darn Roadcaster has a Bluetooth setup so that I Bluetooth my phone into the mixer, and we're talking. And it optimizes it and does all the tricks. So I kind of go, as long as it works better if you're on a landline, and it works better if you're in a quiet place, and it works better if you have headphones on for the mic. As long as you have all those things in place, old school works pretty good.
Yeah. So, Should we talk about some new stuff? How do you think? What are your thoughts about this contact trace technology that Google and Apple are working on at the moment to try and combat the old COVID-19?
I like the idea in principle, and I think the way they're talking about using Bluetooth technology, and your phone already collects this stuff anyway. So they're literally talking, as I understand it, about both of these platforms, which then would pretty much have 100% of the phone services, because there's only 2 iOS that are out there anyway. So 100% phone coverage. The idea being that if I'm close to you, you're close to me, we both have this app that you would have to download. Our Bluetooth then tags each other, so we keep a record. And so then if I find out that I've got, I test positive for COVID, a message could be sent out through this app to all the people that I've come in contact with. I think it's in principle, it's a great idea. I love it. I think it works well. The problem I foresee is in a place like Dubai, in a place like the Middle East, easy. They just make it mandatory that this thing gets loaded in, and they, fine, done, simple. In a place like Canada, in a place like the US, in a place like the UK, to say, okay, you got to download this app, I think there's going to be way too much skepticism about how that data is going to be used, what it's going to be used for. We talk security with Zoom. What about security with that data? And how secure is the app, and how is that information being exchanged and collected? And what if it gets into the wrong hands? And we know that there are tons of people right now who are spending all of their time trying to hack things, because why not? They've got nothing better to do. And some of them are white hackers, but some of them are black hackers. And so you got to be, good hackers and bad hackers, white and black. So that becomes the big challenge. But I saw a statistic today with this whole thing. So again, great idea. And why wouldn't you do it, right? But unless you get 60% uptake in a population, it's not going to work. So it's there, but you need 60% of the population to have bought into this. And I don't know if we could get 60% of the population to buy into it. We can't get 60% of a population to vote in an election in North America. How are we going to get 60% to download this app without thinking that Apple and Google are trying to control our lives?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think the thing is here, so they've actually launched an app here as well. I think I sent it to you. They've got a COVID-19 app ready. So there's a contact trace app that they're releasing here. And they're encouraging you, obviously, to download. And he said, obviously, they could implement legislation here that would require you to have that. And I think here we'll use more to things like carrying IDs and things like this. So we're kind of in that mindset protective mindset anyway. I think what it will do is it will also potentially kind of start getting people to question their other apps.
Yeah.
Because, the fact is that, Google Maps has an exact kind of blueprint of where you live, where you work, where you go to shops.
It records it. It records it.
It records it. It shares it. You've got your socials that share similar information. Most of your apps track your movement.
Yeah.
When you're not. I think the last 2 updates ago, when they updated iOS and they were alerting you of which apps were accessing your Bluetooth.
Yeah.
That kind of was a surprise. I think even for me, some of the apps, I'm like, well, why would you be wanting my Bluetooth? So I think the thing is that with this and with people's exposure to more tech, I think some of those questions are going to start being raised as well. So I think the wider discussion is going to be around privacy and how some of these things are being. I think that we're going to reach a point where, I don't know, it's almost going to be mandatory because we can't have another one of these, right?
No,
we can't have another scenario where effectively the whole world is closed off. And I think if you look at places like Singapore, like Korea, that have some of this tech already in place, Korea was alerting if there was someone, for example, in that apartment, they would tell everyone their name, who they are, when they got it, and how long they're supposed to be in quarantine. And kind of almost social justice. So if you saw James, like you said, walk out his front door, 10 people would go, get back inside. You're not allowed to be out. Do you need something? Can I help? Can I get your shopping? Can I? So kind of that
I gotta
social
say,
justice.
Looking at South Korea, exactly what you're talking about. So you got social justice, but you've also got that almost a caring society as well, where they know people can't get in. So people are making that effort. Let me go get you this. And people are dropping those groceries off. And because they realize, hey, I'm doing this for you, but by me helping you is helping me. And I guess we're coming to that point where we start asking, what limitations are we willing to accept for what? And maybe it's a duration thing. Maybe it's, we're going to start off with it for now. We're going to put a window on and we're going to dial it back or we're going to turn it off, which we could. I mean, you forget Google and both Apple can forget you if they want to. So I think that becomes possible. But I think
it was quite interesting was when they first did the lockdown here or the curfew or the disinfectant program. They sent out the broadcast message on the cellular network.
Yeah, I didn't even know they had that emergency network here.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people that was like, oh, what's happening? I mean, how did they do that? And I think, I've been in the States when there's been tornado kind of warnings, and it's come across the broadcast cell. So as soon as I kind of saw that, I heard it, and thought, oh wow, okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah. But there's a lot out there that honestly is just available at a flick of a switch. And I think a lot of people kind of pretty much spend their life blissfully unaware. I mean, I'll be honest, my comfort level at the moment with allowing access to so many apps to my video is a bit, I kind of, Zoom is good. And I've got nothing. I mean, literally, like there's a lamp, there's a window, there's, but TV, but my comfort level is as you said. I mean, what are they going to do? But it's malicious activity that potentially, and you're relying on. At the end of the day, you're relying on other people to protect your security. Yeah. If you don't want to be part of it, a lot of high-level CEOs run around with a Nokia phone, or a BlackBerry because of the secure aspect. As soon as you open up the mic. So I don't know how many apps I've got on my Mac now where this wants to use your video. Yep, cool. This one wants to integrate to Google, so we need to know your Google password. Yep, cool. And I'm not just blindly clicking things, but I mean, if I sat back and said, well, actually, who has access to my Google keychain, let's say, where I've got my calendar, email, Vidyard, Zoom, Hangouts. I mean, I've got both hands full of things that have access to fairly precious information, and I've got things like two-step authentication and, I've made sure that from my own security perspective, I'm at least covered.
Well, that's it. Changing, I think more than ever right now, to two-step authentication. I've got authentication like yourself that things happen on my computer and it sends my mobile a message so that I can confirm.
Yeah.
I'm changing my passwords and making sure that I update them on for me, I've gone from never updating them to probably I've gone bi-weekly at this point, just to make sure that I'm protected in that basic way. And that works well with some of the apps that I've given permission to.
Are you using one password for everything though?
No, I change them around.
Jeez, man.
I know, it's a killer. It's a killer.
I thought I was doing well, but now I feel inadequate.
Oh man, and it's some of it's just I just want to be safe. And I operate on the assumption that no one's out there to dupe me or to do things maliciously, but there are a few people. Yeah. So I just want to do no harm. So I just want to keep myself protected and even if it's just basic protection, again, I also rely hugely on the folks over at Google who I'm using their stuff for their encryption, for their security measures, and so I'm really sticking with some of the larger pools of service providers, only because I dealt years ago. In fact, I remember I was at TED and I was standing around, and we were in Long Beach, so this is 2009, and I'm standing around there, and I'm talking to this guy. And just, he kind of dressed like you typically, right? And just talking to him. We're just talking about, what do you do? And he worked at Google at that time. He doesn't work there now. He's gone on to set up his own business. But he worked at Google. I'm going, oh, that's cool. And I'm saying, Google, man, I've never met anyone who works at Google. And it's like, yeah. And I said, so what do you do? He says, I'm the guy responsible for maps. And I'm going, what? He says, yeah, that's my baby. And I'm going, really? And so then we got, I know we've had this conversation before, but then I got into a discussion about security. No,
we haven't, I don't think.
Oh, okay. So he was a really cool guy. Yeah. And to this day, we kind of keep in touch. And it's a weird TED thing, right? And I love watching TED Talks, but I really think anyone who should apply at some point in their life to go to TED and spend the 10 grand, or it's 12 grand now. 12,000 American dollars to just get in the door. Yeah. It's an elitist association. There's no question. They want only people who can afford it are going to go. And if you really want to go, you're going to come up with 12 grand if you get invited to give them 12 grand. So we're sitting and we're having this chat. And I said to him, why? I don't know why should I really trust Google anyway with my data and with because this was when I was starting to use quite a bit of Google Docs and things. And I said, I'm really leery about putting my photos into Photos and putting my stuff into Google Docs, and it's all up in the cloud. And I don't know. And he just looked at me and he said, okay, let's just be really clear on something. And he said, we've got, Norton and Symantec, and you've got all these cybersecurity firms that are out there that are tracking stuff and creating software. He says, Google has the 5 best people in the world working for them in cybersecurity, and they have teams under them, and they're around the world, and they are protecting the entire Google infrastructure that is being attacked constantly with people trying to break through. He said, You don't have to go buy the program. They already work there because your security is the only thing that keeps this thing running. If we're not secure, then no one's going to use us. So he said, he's working at Google. He's going, he says, and I said to him, you've drunk the Kool-Aid. And he says, I may have drunk the Kool-Aid, but I'm working within that infrastructure, and I know the numbers of people that are trying to hack Google Maps at this time, and we're stopping that. And it's all getting stopped through the systems we've put in place. He says, I think you're as safe as it can be. Just, fix your passwords, make sure things are good, and leave the rest to us. And I kind of went, okay, I can deal with that. There we go.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We're taking care of it so you can sleep at night.
And so, he didn't say he did say don't be complacent. You got to do your part, but it's not one of those things that you need to be staying awake at night with. Hey, I'm really curious. Your kids have gotten a little bit older, Andrew, and we've talked about this on and off. How are you dealing with the online world for them right now? Because obviously, entertainment-wise, friends-wise, games-wise, they've gotten older. Yeah. They now need to be really, hitting up the internet for some of the stuff they're doing. Policing it, locking stuff down, being there with them. What's your strategy?
Yeah, I think thankfully there's there's been an explosion of sharing of, age appropriate content, I'd say. So, you kind of are aware of the basic things. YouTube has an app called YouTube for Kids.
Okay.
Interestingly, it's only available in UK, actually, on the UK App Store and the US App Store. I don't think you can get it here, but YouTube for Kids. So that kind of makes sure that it's age appropriate content. And then, as I said, there's been almost an explosion of overshare of parents of all of these phenomenal, either apps or websites that have educational or edutainment based content. So it's I think the thing is there's a few studies coming out of the US at the moment that's saying that actually it's okay for them to be online. It's okay for them to be connected. It's, so we've never really done the whole hour on the iPad and things like that. You don't want to be on there for, obviously hours and hours and hours, but I think that you've got to be able to use this tech, understand it, because it's not going to go away. So I think that what's been quite cool is that things like, Natural History Museum back in the UK has done kind of virtual tours. You've got if you've kind of got kids, the Google Animals has been super fantastic. So I don't know if you've seen that. If you type in, you can type in, like giant panda, so do it today. You can type in, panda's pretty cool, or any other kind of animal. You can type in giant panda in Google and then push 3D, and it's augmented reality. So you kind of move your phone around, and then the panda will be in the room. So that's pretty fun.
So I do that with
animals.
I do that with Google Animals, you said?
Yeah. It's in Google. So just in Chrome, in Chrome, just type in, panda or tiger or whatever, and then put it on 3D. You have to move it around to augment the phone, but then you got a little panda sitting next to you and you can move around and things. So I think it's using tech to kind of help them, but also, I mean, when I look around the room, Jenga's out, right? Yeah. And kind of some of the traditional things, and we've done, it's almost been that kind of MacGyver type situation where we've taken empty water bottles and created a whole funnel system for balls and water and everything. So I think stepping into that STEM world a bit. Yeah. So there is, I think what's been fun is just the amount of apps and sites that are out there that I was unaware of. Yeah. A list came out yesterday that somebody shared, and I was like, wow, okay. I mean, that's there's a lot on there of, I think it was something like 25 different websites that I'd never heard of before. And I think we know things like Khan Academy and Udemy and things like that, but there was things like Creative Bug, Discovery Education. There's a whole bunch of YouTube shows as well. So Science Channel, SciShow Kids, Kids Learning, and then obviously, virtual tours. I think I've got here, so there's 12 virtual tours of museums. There's astronomy. I mean, pretty much everything now. There's a virtual world for it. Yeah. So I think we're quite lucky that there is things to entertain kids now during this time.
One of the things that I'm really finding is you're now seeing this clear divide, the divide between the content that's been made for revenue generation purposes and the content that's being made because, hey, we already do something else. We're going to create this content because it's useful. We're going to make it available because it's useful, but our prime motivation is not to make any money from this. We might somewhere down the road, and it might feed back into our larger enterprise, but otherwise it's just a good thing to do. We do it anyway. We like doing it. It's available. Make use of it. And down the road, you'll remember, oh yeah, where did we get that? I went to Discovery. Let's go use that too. Oh man, maybe we should subscribe to their stream because we want to get some more of their content. But it's not, hey, if you don't subscribe, you're not going to get the next level. It's just other content that you could go to, but otherwise you can use their services for nothing. Yeah. And I really
I mean, a lot of people have ungated their content as well. Yeah. So you've got a lot of people that are offering it's something that's even crazier. I mean, look, Sirius XM have opened up their app. It's a bit of a challenge to get it here, to be honest with you, because it's heavily gated for the US, but they've opened up their app and it's free until the end of May.
Which is kind of cool.
To try and create, some goodwill, I think, and also getting people listening, obviously, to kind of the various channels on there. But they've got a dedicated Corona station, so COVID-19 station that just kind of talks about, and gets people on talking about the pandemic. So I think, there's so much out there. There really is, and you said there's a lot of people that are just doing it for nothing. It's well, I mean, look at
us.
Fair to look at us. I mean, we're kind of we're giving up our time and just putting that out there, and I think. If you look at the video tips that you're doing, it's not as if, someone's sponsoring you. No one's come in and said, okay, this is sponsored by Rode mics or whatever. Yeah. I mean, this is...
They should.
You.
They should, because I use a Rode mic when I record it.
So I'm shouting them out. Hopefully they'll get to hear it. But I think there's just this... I think a lot of people have responded in a positive nature to the current environment, and it's kind of almost that, well, I could sit here and do nothing, or I could create something and share that with people. And I quite like the fact that there's a lot of sharing at the moment. I like the fact that there's a lot of people encouraging you to do X, Y, Z, or just try it for getting their own results and then sharing their own results. And, I think that's the thing. For example, when I decided to start doing video on even LinkedIn, there was, I could have delayed. I could have, set up something, and I was like, no, just go. And then, and I think the current climate is quite forgiving, I'd say. Yeah. So I think if there is things a misstep, or you jump on a conference call and you're a bit like this and you're a bit like this or like this, I think it's quite forgiving. I think as long as people remember that you are on camera, which obviously there's been some quite comical things shared where people clearly haven't realized. There's actually a new video conferencing platform that's in beta stage at the moment. The focus is just on your face.
I like that.
And the example they used was that quite famous one of the kid running in from the background, and the mum and the maid coming in and dragging the kid away. And they showed you how, if the technology had been in place, you would have been blissfully unaware of what was happening behind, because the circle continues to track your facial movements. So I think also as well, there's going to be a lot of tech that's kind of born out of our current environment. I mean, look at, as we've already mentioned, the tech involved in the contact trace, and there's tech around this. I don't know if you saw the kid in the States. I think I want to say he's 13, and he just built a little website called COVID-19.
No,
and it's pulling in all of the sources.
Okay, cool.
And he got offered $8 million for an ad.
Okay.
And he turned it down.
Okay.
He just said, no, I'm just doing this, for my own fun. And I'll share the link with you. It's quite interesting. He basically noticed that when early on in Wuhan, when they were doing the numbers, it was all in Chinese. So he basically organized an algorithm to translate and then pull it out.
Neat.
And it just went crazy. So he's just got this kind of ticker going.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, I'm liking, I think, again, there's just so many things out there. And one of the challenges I find is that there's so much has come out. We've gone to a phase where we've picked and chosen what we want to use, and we're starting to use it. Now we're learning like always. And it almost becomes a little bit overwhelming. Yeah. Andrew, on that note, we need to wrap things up and let people know that, hey, you know what? We're available, Podaholics with a K, if you want to get in touch with us. You can find us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor FM, and more. And we have over, I believe, 140 shows ranging from Tech Talk, the PowerWorks podcast, Doc Talk, Do It Yourself, Catching Up, and more, all available. All done by folks like you and me, and done because there's lots of information to be shared. There's lots of information that is entertaining, and it's a little bit of knowledge. And that's what we're all about. It's just fun. Yeah. Andrew, good stuff. You know what? It's been a blast, and look forward to doing it again real soon. Tech Talk is the program. Podaholics is where you're listening to us. Podaholics with a K @gmail.com. We'll be back with you really, really soon.